Hello everyone, so welcome to episode 2. Welcome back to my story. So the episode 2 was the red flags I ignored. So if you watched episode 1, then you already know how I met Michael, a handsome Nigerian man who randomly sent me a friend request on Facebook. A man who seemed like kind, caring, generous, and almost too good to be true. And at the end of the last episode, I told you that Michael had started sending me money and that we had grown very close. That I didn't tell you. But what I didn't tell you was just how attached I became to him after that. And honestly, that's where the real trouble began. Huh? You see, before Michael came into my life, I was just a regular university student trying to survive. My days were just normal, simple university student girl, where you wake up, you freshen up, you take your breakfast, attend your lectures, you fight deadlines, the assignments, complain about the assignments themselves, worry about money, sleep, and repeat. But after Michael came into my life, my routine changed completely. The first thing I did every morning was to check my phone. The emotional bond. The attachment was there already. Not because of Facebook, not because of school, but because of him, because of Michael. And every single morning there was already a message waiting for me. Good morning, beautiful. Good morning, princess. Have a blessed day. Don't forget to eat, okay? How did you sleep? Blah, blah, blah. The sweet nonsense. So those messages might seem small, but when you are young, lonely in college and struggling through life, those small sweet nothings can mean a lot to you if you've been there. So very quickly those messages became something I looked forward to. I know most of you can relate. And sometimes I'd wake up smiling before my feet even touch the floor after reading those sweet messages. And my roommate Sharon noticed immediately. And one morning she looked at me and laughed. You are smiling at your phone again. I tried to act innocent. What are you talking about? She rolled her eyes. I told her. But normal chit chats of hostel girls. I was like, girl, don't even start. Ever since that Nigerian man came into your life, you've been acting different. That was her words after rolling her eyes. And me acting foolish and silly, I threw a pillow at her and we laughed together, but she wasn't wrong. I was changing, huh? Without realizing it, Michael was becoming the center of my world. And at first, our conversations were about normal things. School, family, movies, music, food. Then they became deeper. We talked about our childhoods, our fears, then we shared everything. Kama unaelewa, our dreams, our future. And one night I remember telling him something I had never told anyone before. I told him how hard it had been losing my father when I was still a child. I told him how much pressure I felt as the first daughter. And I told him about my fear of falling, or rather failing in school, falling behind. And Michael listened quietly. He didn't interrupt me. He listened quietly and patiently. Then he said something that made me cry. Grace, you're stronger than you think. I know it sounds simple, but at that moment, it was exactly what I needed to hear. The more we talked, the more I trusted him, and that's where my first mistake happened. I started sharing everything with him, everything. My good days, my bad days, my fears, my frustrations, my plans. Yani, I trusted him completely. And looking back now, I realize something. When I was opening up to him, I didn't actually know very much about him actually. funny, right? I knew his favorite color though. I knew his favorite food. I knew what he claimed to do for work. But did I really know him, really? No. I knew the version he showed me. And those are two very different things, you know. One afternoon after class, Sharon and I were sitting outside the hostel eating samosas. And I was texting Michael as usual. Sharon suddenly asked me a question. A very deep one. Have you ever met this guy in real life? I said no, because I haven't met him in real life. Have you met any of his friends? I said no. Family? No. Then how do you know he's telling the truth? I remember feeling annoyed. Not because she was wrong, but because I didn't want to hear it. You know, running from the truth. When you are in love, logic starts sounding like negativity, you know. I immediately defended him. Not everyone is a bad person. Sharon nodded. That's true, but not everyone is a good person either, she said. And at that time, I brushed off her concerns. And today I wish I listened to her, actually. One thing about Michael was that he always seemed available, no matter what time I called. No matter what time I texted, he always replied. At first I thought it was romantic, then little things started happening. Things I ignored completely. For example, every time I suggested a long video call, something came up. His internet wasn't working, you know. His battery was low. He was traveling, he was at work, there was always an excuse. Now, don't get me wrong, we did a video call, but not so much often, and never for a very long time, and at the time, I accepted those explanations. Those excuses, because I wanted to believe him, and because trusting him felt easier than questioning him. And one evening he called while I was having dinner with friends. I didn't answer immediately, and about 30 minutes later my phone was full of missed calls. 5, 6, 7, then messages. Where are you? Are you okay? Why aren't you answering? And at first I thought it was sweet. I thought he cared. But then I noticed a pattern. Wherever I spent time away from him, he became uncomfortable. Not angry, not openly, just uncomfortable. And somehow he always managed to make me feel guilty. The guilt-tripping, gaslighting, that narcissistic kind of behavior. And eventually I started spending less time with friends now. Not because he asked me to, but because I wanted to avoid disappointing him. My beau, do you see how dangerous that is? Nobody forced me though. Nobody threatened me. It happened slowly. So slowly that I didn't even notice. Then weeks turned into months. Our relationship became stronger. Or at least that's what I thought. Then, one day, completely out of nowhere, Michael sent me money again. A lot of money. And I immediately called him. Michael, why didn't you send this? His answer shocked me because I wanted to be comfortable. That was what he said. At first I refused, but he insisted. He told me a man should take care of the woman he loves. And part of me felt special, you know. Another part felt uncomfortable, but I accepted it anyway. So, and that's another thing I wish I could go back and change. You know, people love money, especially small girls in college, wanapenda pesa, and if you find someone sending you lots of it, even without asking, you let your guard down. So because every gift created another layer of trust because of that, and every act of generosity made it harder to question him, and every kind gesture lowered my guard. By now, my mother had started noticing something. Every time I went home, I was always smiling at my phone. And one Sunday afternoon, she finally asked, "Who keeps making you smile like that?" And I laughed it out. Then I told her everything. Well, almost everything. I told her about Michael, how we met, how we talked every day, how kind he was, how supportive he had been. My mother listened carefully. Then she asked one simple question. What do you know about this family? I froze because you know now the detail. Honestly, not much. I knew their names though. I had seen a few photos of them. That was it. My mother nodded, and then she said something I'll never forget. Grace, don't let love make you blind. At the time, I thought she was being overly protective as mothers are, but now I realize she was trying to protect me. But ujinga wangu siku realize the biggest turning point came a few weeks later. Michael called me one evening. His voice sounded serious. I remember sitting upright on my bed, and I thought something was wrong. And instead, he said something that left me speechless. Speechless. He said, Grace, I love you. I smiled. That wasn't unusual. He had said it before. Then he continued, I want to marry you. So I nearly dropped my phone. Marry me? We had never met before. Not once. I thought he was joking. But he wasn't. He sounded completely serious. My heart was racing. Part of me felt excited. Part of me felt scared a bit. And another part of me felt like I was living inside a fairy tale. So for days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. A beautiful, successful man wanted to marry. Handsome. Me, a broke university student. I felt unbelievable. It felt really unbelievable, you know. Compare our situations. Then just when I thought things couldn't get any more surprising, Michael called me again. And this time he sounded excited. Very, very excited. I have news. What news? I asked him. I booked a flight. I laughed. At first, what flight? A flight to Kenya. I stopped breathing for a second. What? I'm coming to see you, he said. And I still remember how my heart felt in that moment. Excitement, fear, happiness, nervousness, everything at once, if you can feel me. And the next few weeks felt endless. I kept imagining our first meeting. Would he look the same? Would he like me? Would there be any chemistry? Would things be awkward? Every day felt longer than the last. And finally, the day arrived. The day Michael landed in Kenya at JKIA, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. I barely slept that night before. I changed outfits at least 6 times. Unataka kung'ara. Nothing looked right. Nothing felt right. My hands were shaking. My stomach full of butterflies, you know. And as I headed to the airport, I kept rehearsing what I would say. But when the moment finally came, I forgot everything. Because there he was, walking toward me, holding flowers, smiling and looking exactly like the man for me from the photos. At that moment, every doubt disappeared, you know. Every warning, every concern, every red flag, all gone. All I could see was a man I thought I loved. What I didn't know though was that the worst chapter of my life was only beginning. So guys, stay tuned. Chai bado ni moto. Stay tuned, subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you'll be notified when I post the episode 3. And in episode 3, I'll tell you exactly what happened during Michael's first visit to Kenya. How he managed to win over everyone around me. And the shocking reason nobody suspected what